Good morning, grade 1. Welcome back. This is Teacher V speaking, and I'll be teaching you the writing lessons. So please prepare the following materials needed. Number 1 is your readers and writers booklet, your pencil and eraser, and of course your English copybook. Alright, so today, as you can see at the picture, this picture is actually a bird and its chick. Have you seen a bird and its chick already? Great. So these picture, you see that this is really real, or this is really happening in real life situation. Yeah. So great. Our lesson for today is about realistic story. Do you have any idea what a realistic story is, or from the word itself, real? Okay, so our lesson objectives are, at the end of the lesson, students should be able to A. Identify the key features of a realistic story. B. Follow the writer's guide to write a story. And letter B, or C, rather, to write an example of a realistic story. Let's start. What is a realistic story? A realistic story is a made-up story that could happen in real life. Remember the word real life. Okay? So let's start with the key features of a realistic story. Look at the pictures in the screen. So we have here, as you can see, a house and a lake. So therefore, this is a place, right? This one is a place. And the other one is a family picture, like a dad, a mom, and of course, a kid. So, do you have an idea of what is the first key feature of this realistic story? Of course, as you can see, we have characters, events, and setting seem real. Yeah? So as you can see, this house is real. Oh, and the characters are real as well. So that is the first key feature of a realistic story. Number 2, look at the picture. They are students like you. So do you have any idea what is the second feature of a realistic story? Great. And that is characters do things that really happen in real life. So a student go to school. It is really happening in real life, right? They study just like what you are doing right now. And of course, the other picture is that a doctor. A doctor goes to the hospital to treat sick people. Yep. Okay. So great. So those are the key features of a realistic fiction. Again, the characters and events and settings seem real, and characters do things that really happen in real life. All right. So now think about the story. Is this a realistic or a fantasy? So this story is the story of Sam Come Back. Now, is this realistic or fantasy? Do you have any idea? Okay, good job. And this story is a realistic story. Great job. Now, what about this picture? This is a fox and a kid. This was discussed last week, right? So, a fox and a kid. What do you think about this story? Is this a realistic story or a fantasy story? You have to remember that those kids, they went to the zoo to look for the fox or how the fox are doing. Okay, so this story is a realistic story as well. So same as Sam come back. So when we say again a realistic story, it really happens in real life situation. Now let's proceed. So I also want you to take a look on this. These are your guide in writing a realistic story. Okay, so we call this writer's checklist. Number one, write a story with events that could really happen. Number two, make sure your story has a beginning, middle, and an end. And number three is you have to make sure any question ends with a question mark. Remember a question mark? This is how it looks like. Okay, again, one more time. What are the writer's checklist? Number one, write a story with events that could really happen in real life. Number two, make sure that your story has a beginning, middle, and an end. And of course, you have also to make sure that any question ends with a question mark. All good? Great job. So now, I want you to grab your reader's and writer's booklet along with your pencil and eraser because we are going to start our activity. Are these materials ready? Great, so let's start. I have here an example of a realistic story, and later on, we are going to use this story and as an example and write it in the writing organizer. Okay, so here is my example. The title of the story is The Deer. A deer came to the park. Then Jana and Dima saw it. The deer looked hungry. Jana and Dima wanted to give it 6 grapes. Their dad said no. Will they see the deer again? Now, if you want to read this story one more time, it's fine. Okay, so I'm going to give you 1 to 2 minutes to read the story one more time before we proceed to our writing organizer. Okay, start. All right, so if you are done, kindly open your book on page 192. So these are the story chart, this is the story chart. So a story chart composed of the following. We have the title, the characters, the setting, the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story. Okay, so using this story, you are going to look for the title, who are the characters, where is the setting, what is the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story. Okay? Great. So now you have to start writing all the what is the title, the characters, and all of this. All right? And afterwards, I'm going to show you mine if we have the same answer. Okay? So you may now start writing. Go. All right. So now, if you already done with it, so these are my example for you to be able to know if our answers are the same. Okay, the title of the story is The Deer. The characters are Jana, Dima, and Dad. The setting is at the park. The beginning of the story is a deer came to the park. Then Jana and Dima saw it. The middle is the deer looked hungry. Jana and Dima wanted to give it 6 grapes. And the end of the story is their dad said no. Will they see the deer again? So these are the answers in the story chart. So can you please double check your answer? And if there are some mistakes, it's fine. You erase it and copy it again. Okay, now start. Kindly open your book on page 192 and actually you'll see the story chart. Okay, and the story chart composed of the following: the title, the characters, setting, beginning, middle, and the end of the story. So using the story I gave you, which is entitled The Veer, you're going to use this story and transfer it in the story chart. Okay? So you have to copy them one by one. So where is the title? Who are the characters, the setting, the beginning, the middle, and the end? Okay, and then later on, I'm gonna show you mine or my answer, and then you will see and you'll check if your answers are correct. If it's not, and then you are going to erase your answer and copy it again. Understood? All right, so you can now start writing. Go. Okay, so here's my answer. The title of the story is The Deer. And the characters are Jana, Dima, and Dad. The setting is at the park. The beginning is a deer came to the park. Then Jana and Dima saw it. The middle is the deer looked hungry. Jana and Dima wanted to give it 6 grapes. And the end of the story is their dad said no. Will they see the deer again? So here's my answer. Again, double check your answer and my answer. If your answer is wrong, you can erase it and copy mine. All right? Now, if you are done, let us again recall if we achieve our learning objective for today. Our learning objective, the first one is identify the key features. Yes, we identify it, right? And we also follow the writer's guide to write a realistic story. Of course, we started the if the question it is a question, we started it from a WH question and ended it with a question mark. Yep. Next is letter C is write an example of realistic story. We already did. Yeah, and that is the deer. So, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you learned something from me today. And I will see you again next week for our another session. Thank you so much once again. Bye bye. Have a nice day.